Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome in this new weekly workshop for productivity to enhance your own productivity with some practical steps in, well, how to be more efficient. The underlying layer is mindfulness. The goal itself is to not actually have more stuff to do in the output, but the idea is to find that calmness in everything is taken care of. And that is where this presentation is built upon, especially this one, because this is a very nice one that's focused on action management, how to manage your actions to escape that feeling of time limitation, as if time is the most limiting factor in the whole wide world. And it will focus your mindset into organizing your actions in a certain way that you can experience freedom as a result. So that is where we are going into today. Really amazing. So the company name is called AIIM, which stands for Action, Information and Insight Management. So aim to be limitless. That's kind of the premise that we are facing here, or the belief, the idea. And in this specific video, I'm going to, in this live session, because we are live, um, I'm going to go a little bit deeper on that concept of action management, how to manage your actions instead of managing your time. Because, oh no, let me say it differently, this agenda that we are going through, we first start with identifying the problem to give you that mindset of those struggles if you are experiencing the problem. Let me go into that later on. Then the premise, what my mindset shift kind of led me into explaining this stuff and why this really works for me personally and why it might benefit you. What kind of benefits will you experience because of that? Um, and then the method itself, like very practically, what kind of structure has worked for me, and specifically if you done time boxing in the past and you notice that time boxing isn't actually if that doesn't work for you personally. Then we're going a little bit deeper on the software. What kind of platforms can you use? Is it just one or multiple ones? And that will kind of like crystallize your whole idea. And there are some premise statements underneath it. Regarding the software, what does it mean? Are we still looking for that ideal software package that will solve all of our problems? And we will dive a little bit deeper upon that. And then the following next steps that you can start to integrate into your system if you mastered this part. And if you want to take it up a notch with that whole idea, and let me just go back to the starting page. The whole idea behind this is you creating your own PKS, which stands for Personal Knowledgement System. Having one single source point of truth where you externalize all of your thoughts, ideas, actions, projects, agenda points, appointments, everything. Agenda point and appointments is the same thing, but everything that you find important in your life, to externalize those thoughts and having that into an external system. So an action management is part of that, but there will be layers on top of that later on. Good. The problem itself. Are you experiencing a to-do list and that you keep shifting your to-do list with only like prioritizing the stuff that is most important fully on top, and you feel like that the to-do list is a never-ending story? and that you're always like racing against the clock. You're always like stuck in there's more things to do, more things to do, more things to do, and you can't really experience that moment of self for yourself. And perhaps sometimes you have that holiday somewhere 2 weeks that you're finally like unstressing from all of the stress that you have in your life, and then um, you're having that moment of now it's calm, it's rest. The idea that I want to no, let me go. So that's one of the problems if you're feeling that state of a never-ending to-do list. A different problem could be you struggling with procrastination. I know that I am, especially was very big, and now it's being reduced. Um, Let me go to the big screen as well because we're talking about the big problem. The seeing your to-do list and even the most important things on top, but you're still not doing it right now. And we're going to go a little bit deeper upon what's currently holding you back from doing that specific action, and with the method that I'm going to show you guys on how to overcome that level of procrastination. And whenever you feel like that you're procrastinating upon something, explaining how to deal with it in a certain way. So that's really helpful underneath all of this. A different problem that you could have is a very full mailbox. I know that a lot of people, including myself in the past, were using the mailbox as a to-do list. These mails I haven't opened just yet, so these are actions or these are mails that I still need to act upon. A little nuance there. If the current system is working for you the way that it's currently working, then it's totally fine. But if you're feeling like, my mailbox is piling over, and in the idea situation, I want to have your mailbox turned into 0, completely empty, just that. So that's the thing, because the problem itself is experiencing stress of what could I have missed here? What haven't I seen? There are so many mails coming in, there are so much notification and so many newsletters and commercial stuff that you might feel actually overwhelmed for all of the stuff that's coming in. Having this structure will reduce, well, one, like solve the mailbox itself, like reduce that level into 0. Like imagine having a mailbox of 0. Just imagine that feeling. I I asked the same question in a presentation a while ago at the Mind Valley community, and someone during the presentation actually was like, "Oh yeah, like it would be a relief so much," that he kind of shouted that out during that presentation, which was a very like almost an emotional response. It wasn't really a fun experience, but that sign of relief because of it, which is a very important thing to recognize. So that's why it's very important to lean into those parts. Um, so these are kind of some of the problems, three problems that you might have had, and there are some other things, um, including one of the mindset shifts, the idea of prioritizing your actions that you need to do. Because prioritizing will create you experiencing that time trap of not having enough time to do your things. It's a very important one underneath all of this. Good. Let's go further. Good. The premise. So the premise, for those who don't know it, the premise is an underlying belief that is structured all of the other things. So all of your actions are based on your own premises, your reasons. It's not even your reasons why, but it's your belief system. And based on your belief system, you act upon things in a certain way. This could be a place of um, time lag. There is not enough time, so I need to do stuff quicker so I can achieve more. We only have 24 hours a day, so what do you choose to do within those 24 hours? For example, one of the ideas. And the idea shift that I kind of wanted to give in here is we don't really manage our time, but we manage the stuff that we do within our time. Because in a certain way, time doesn't really exist because all of us are growing. And what growing actually means is layer on top of a layer on top of a layer. And if you're doing the stuff um, exponentially, the actions that you're doing to create the products and the services and the companies that you envision of doing, then every action will be an extra layer of the onion on top of the other one. So then it becomes that time isn't the only factor itself. It is you creating the world on top of the other one, on top of the other one, on top of the other one. So you can do that with action management. It starts really with action management instead of time management. It's such a premise that's so actively stored in the world, which makes people talk faster and wanting to do more and being more in that stress situation. As in, I need to do. Like a Western, it's a very Western feeling of lack of time. And the underlying idea is to escape that feeling, to be more in the present here and now. And I know how much it helps me personally with my story and how much it keeps helping me because I'm helping more people around me. And whenever I feel like that I'm more in that state of managing my time or more in that state of I need to rush things, the worst things get, to be honest. So this whole idea is working towards that mindful productivity. It's a very important part. Good. And now we get into the beautiful, beautiful idea of action management. This system is based on the getting things done method of David Allen in 1970, 1980. I don't know which year exactly that he started publicizing this stuff, but it has been a game changer for me personally. Um, what he did is he made 5 different categories, and based on these 5 categories, he put every action that you need to do into one of these 5 categories. And what a lot of us have been taught is to organize your actions based on the subject. As in, started off with school, as in this is where we actually learned this stuff, as in, write down all of the actions that you needed to do for math, or for science, or for biology, or from like computer classes, doesn't really matter which part. And it kind of led us into having that like grow into the adulthood because everything is like childhood based. It's also a premise, by the way. But I want to give you guys a different idea on how to manage your actions, and that is managing your actions based on category. So category is a set of rules in which how you deal with that action. So that means an actionable must and a not actionable must. Let me go a little bit deeper upon what exactly is the definition of a must. And a must is a very interesting one because a must is something that you have agreed upon with someone else. So this means if I have a meeting with someone else, or if I have a conversation with someone and I'll mention him, hey, I will send you these details before next Monday. Then this becomes a must because I've agreed this action with someone else. So in this case, that other person, like my word becomes my bound because of that. So this is a must action. This also includes, this is something that I experienced this afternoon, for example. Once you're having a project, as in you're doing a course. For that course, if you're really all in for that course, no half measures. Like if you're saying you're going to complete that course, in this case, in my example, this means watching 12 videos, and out of those 12, there are some actions that are included upon that. All of these actions are must actions because I've agreed upon with someone else and with myself as well, like including myself. I will finish this course and I will do all of the steps that they told me to do. Like then they become must because that will give the end result of your course. That will finishes your course. So these are the must, but it also includes you paying the bill for your rent, for example. That's not directly something that you've agreed upon with someone else, but in a certain way, it's an indirect agreement because you agreed with actually like living there. You've signed a contract. So while you were signing that contract, then those musts actually appeared. So it's quite nice to have that distinction between a must and later on a maybe, because having that distinction will really help you massively. Good. The difference between an actionable and a not actionable must. An actionable must itself is something that you could do right now. So there's no limitations on funds, like money-wise. There's no limitation on information, and there's no previous step that needs to happen first before you can do this. So in a certain way, let's imagine that you need to pay the doctor's bill, but you don't have enough money lying around at this moment to actually pay that person or pay that to pay that bill. Then something else needs to happen first, like getting money in, and then the action becomes actionable. So that's the difference between the two. So within the list of an actionable must is only the things that you could do right now before any previous limitation. So that is the distinction between those two. And then we have a maybe action. And a maybe action is something that I, for myself, have as in maybe I'll go to Mind Valley U, for example. Maybe I'll create a LinkedIn post about a specific topic. Maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. Like having that distinction, because it's very powerful to have all of your ideas that you want to do within your to-do list, like writing down all of the actions that you want to do. And then like really being critical, as in, is this a must or is this a maybe? And a maybe is something that you haven't agreed upon with someone else. Like, will your life be negatively influenced, or will your reputation will that be negatively influenced if you don't do this particular task? Having that distinction is really powerful. So then you have a placeholder for your thoughts, for your actions, but you don't need to do that um, like as a must, as in have to do. Good. And then we go into the waiting for actions. If you remember from just now, we have that state of a not actionable must, as in I still need to pay that bill, but there is something limiting us. So we're currently waiting for the, the our money to come in. Like this could be an invoice that you're still upon to receive or something else. Like money waiting, or um, like if you sorry, I'm kind of lost. I'm thinking about something else. That's what happens if you're alive. That's the downside and the upside at the same time. So it has its benefits. Like let's imagine that you've sent out a mail to someone, and then you want to receive his feedback back, approval or an agreement or not agreement or something like that. So then you're waiting for the response of the other person. Like you're only managing your own actions. Like it's fully focused on the personal level. It's not upon the managing someone else's actions. It's a very important distinction. So you are waiting for someone else to get back to you. You're not waiting for him to, how can I say that correctly? No, that's not completely true. But you're waiting for him to get back to you. So you're just going to write it down. Like you're waiting for the invoice to get paid. And if the invoice got paid, then you can move your not actionable must into your actionable must. Like it sounds overcomplicated if you are not struggling with this particular part. If you're just having your to-do list and you're like, yeah, I know, I'm just waiting for the invoice and then I can pay that. If you're already in full control over your actions, then this is not for you, which is totally fine. Like, congrats to you. I need it, and a lot of the people that I speak with kind of would benefit from this level as well. So if you have a different system that works better for you, then please use that one. I'm just going to invite you into first, like organize your actions on categories, not on subject, which is a very important one. And if you only want to add like the waiting for in your category list and the rest you do differently, amazing. Like, do your thing. That's the most important thing. Good. We've done waiting for, and then there's a fun one as well, which is called the time-bound actions. And the time-bound actions, most commonly known as the calendar appointments. Like what kind of actions do you need to do within a certain time frame? This starts to look like time boxing, but the idea behind, or no, let me say it differently. The downside of time boxing is that you'll have your agenda. It could be Google Calendar or something else. Doesn't really matter. And that you're writing down at the beginning of the week. You're planning everything out. Okay, at this moment I'm going to do that. At this moment I'm going to do that. Like all of the different details. And it leaves very little room for actually freedom. I recently I saw a post which was a very fun one. I need to look it up. Like the downside of time boxing is that imagine a game of chess with all of the pieces, like the 64 squares, and having every square filled up with a piece of action that you have or a piece of time like spent already reserved. Within this 15 minutes, I'm going to do my meditation, or within this hour, I'm going to go through all of my emails and process all of them. If you plan your whole week filled up like that, like I know people who do that, then the downside is what if you get one day of being sick? What if you get, well, if one task gets a little bit longer comparison to what you expected it to be? Like I know statements within the time bound calendar. They're like, okay, reserve 1 hour for this task. And if it's not completed, then never mind, then drop that task and continue to the next one. Yeah, but that kind of makes sure that your task isn't completed, so your mindset is still on that task because you spend an hour upon that, as in, are you going to finish it or not? Because if a task isn't finished, then why are you doing it at the first place? So that's a very important one to lean into that one. So time boxing. Um, yeah, let me reverse back a little bit because I went into a tangent. Time bound actions are mostly appointments that you need. That's basically an action that you need to do within a certain time frame. So that means if you agreed upon to speak with someone between 7 and 8, or having this call, for example, then in my agenda is actually a time, as in I'm I'm being live right now, like within this time frame. But for the rest of the evening, I do not have anything planned, but I do like could work because I can just go through my actionable musts and I'm like, okay, let me just continue my work because every action that I do is a added acceleration based on my total product. Because it's not like being free or being filled up with tasks constantly. Like there are people who love being in that state and they're just enjoying their life in the way that they do. It's totally fine if that works for you. What I kind of like lean into is a different set of thinking and how you can use that to improve your own quality of life. So this is kind of the method underneath it. I think I'm going to stop it on that note. Good. The software, which is a very interesting one. I just explained to you the method itself, and there are some software packages that could use this. Basically, every Excel format, so CSV file, so actually like a table, could work for all of this. Even paper notes. If you feel like, yeah, Tim, but I'm not going to like use a computer to have all of my notes, fine. Have it placed on your agenda. Like have 5 different steps, categories. Review it once a week, for example. Like in that first column, next action. Actionable musts. In the second column, not actionable musts. Third column, maybe actions. The fourth, the waiting for, and the fifth is actually like going to your calendar view. Like it's relatively simple to do this as well within paper. If this is something that you feel like that works for you, fine, use it on paper. If you want to do something more digitally, I would suggest something like Google Tasks. Create 4 different lists and the 5th one, which is the calendar, with actionable must, not actionable must, maybe, and waiting for, and write it down there. Same goes for Excel. Same goes for Outlook. You can create something within Notion to make something bigger for the personal acknowledgement system, but that's a different layer, that's an extra layer. Like, really being humble and start at the beginning, as in first understand the method, the basics, and then later on create something big as a Notion or even a Google Tasks. Like, it's already so big. Let's be humble and let's just slow everything down. One of the premises, it's been a long time since I said this specific one, is slow down to speed up. And I really mean slow down to speed up. Something that I need to remind myself as well. Even in this conversation, I noticed myself making a couple of, not really mistakes, but it's not being clear enough in comparison to what I want to say. Because we can achieve so much if we can truly slow down with all of us, and really experience that mindfulness of it's okay. It's okay that all of us right now in this moment are present at the same time. So it's being in that state of, yeah, being in that state of now. So really to slow down, as in, okay, what's floating inside of your head? Because a thing that I haven't thought about is a premise that, or meditation, let me say it even in meditation, that Sadhguru mentioned, as in, you are not your body and you are not even your mind. And he has this amazing meditation based on that. And which also means that state of, if you are not your mind, if you are not your logic, whatever things that we currently have in our mind, the words that we see, feel, experience here, they are not part of us. And a lot of us are learning to know more, like addicted to knowing more. And the challenge is to like reduce for a second and then experience what's going on. And while you're doing that is to externalize the stuff that you think that you need to do in to-do list in these kind of softwares. To externalize your thoughts, ideas, your logic into an external system so you can be fully present in the here and the now. In a certain way, it's almost a mindfulness state. It is a state of calmness, relaxation, mindfulness. Yeah, there are so many beautiful, beautiful layers that all of us can lean into if we can go into that layer. Oh, sorry. Good. Let me go into the next one because we're almost completed. I don't think I actually added the end slide here. Good. Some of the next steps. After you kind of mastered this these steps as in, yeah, like if you're receiving so many mails and you feel like that you are keeping mails as unread because you still need to do something with that. Those kind of mails, if you're doing that, that would be very, very useful to to make that into your second brain. To make that into your action management system. Because if you see a mail and you're like, yeah, I need to respond upon that, but partially I don't know, I don't feel like doing that, I don't know what to say, I don't have the money to do that at this moment, or I have could be so many things, and could be like I don't feel like it right now, but I need to respond, but I don't feel like doing it right now. Then it's very useful to make that into your not actionable must, for example, because then you can write it down there as in still need to respond upon this mail. This is the mail title, and you can actually archive the mail. Like archiving it is a very important one because that will reduce your stress, and you'll just be like, whenever you're looking at your action list, you don't feel overwhelmed of that stress of new mails coming in, or um, stress of what have I missed, what don't I see, I don't want to open that mail, I don't want to get back to that specific person. Like so many reasons why you're feeling like, or why your mail is piling over. Could be so many things. So the next step would be the mailbox to zero using this action management system. A different next step would be connecting actions to projects. So that means a project is a specific end goal that you're working towards, like define it smartly, specific, measurable, achievable, reliable, and time bound. I don't know exactly the five, but at least smartly. Um, Make it smartly that has a specific goal, specific end goal, and a project is two or more actions with a specific end goal. That's at least my definition of a project. So if you have a couple of next actions, if you have a couple of like if you have a pretty long to-do list, then organizing that into your project will be very beneficial because then you can start like separate that whole part into if you're going into a meeting and you have a specific end goal of that meeting that will benefit your project, then you can just open that project itself and see all of the actions that are connected to that project. So what do you actually need to do? And take action upon that. So that's a very important one. I also have it a lot of it within my YouTube channel. At the moment, I'm streamlining it to make that more accessible for all of you guys. There's a lot of knowledge, but how to make that most accessible for you is a very important one here. But next step, connect action to project. Yeah, connect actions to projects. And the third step, what I really would suggest, is to create a brain dump. And a brain dump is a temporary place where you dump all of your thoughts, actions, random thoughts into that system, and later on um, you can process that into your action management system. And if you want to, that's not something that is fully comprehended within this action management, is to include habit building. And habit building is a very interesting one because it's kind of going outside of the actions that you need to do, which is a very important thing. Then you get into the identity shift, into making the resistance as low as possible to actually have like something to drink your water out of next to your next to your desk, something like that, because then you're building that habit of you drinking enough water to benefit your health and your, well, everything basically. So these are the next steps that you could take to improve upon your things. Good. And this is the end slide. Kind of had two little little things of past week of my duplicate there. Good. Feel free to ask any questions, comments in the comments below, obviously. Especially like what kind of insights. Like, I invite you to lean into what kind of insights have you gathered from this session. Like, feel free to ask questions and to, yeah, share your insights. Because sharing your insights will partially like crystallize the stuff that you have learned, and it will help other people as well, as in to write down the insights that you had based on my storyline. Because sharing insights, that's where the value is. Partially why I'm doing all of these publications nowadays, because I'm boiling inside of knowledge that I want to put out to the correct people, to you, for mindful productivity, to experience that next state based on the stuff that I've learned. So commenting your insights will benefit you understanding that as well. Good. Slowly want to close it off with this because I don't have that much to tell anymore. At the moment for next week, because I'm doing this once a week, on the Tuesday evening at my 7 p.m. Central European time. So that's a fun thing to do, and invite more people to actually watch this during this time. After I've gained some traction, I can add new live sessions as well, where I can answer live questions to kind of lean into that. I'm creating that while I'm going. If you feel like having a conversation with me, like, reach out. I've got my, I'm relatively accessible. I've got my Discord community. I'm going there. Like, I'm just not being live. Let's not make everything bigger than it is. I do have the time. If you have a struggle, if you want to reach out, if you want to have a chat, reach out. Let's have a chat. Because that's the value underneath it. It's in me helping you and you helping me at the same time. Because we're creating the world all together with all of us. So, thank you so much. And I wish you a very, very good evening. Bye bye.